Thanks, Kels. Well, concern from a new sector in the ongoing trade war with the U.S. and President Trump as he takes aim at copper, promising a 50% tariffs in a few weeks.
We're worried that our finished product being shipped over will be tariffed, hence cutting us out of the market compared to companies in Michigan or the U.S.
That's a concern from the Canadian side. Meantime, President Trump writing on Truth Social, America will once again build a dominant copper industry. This, after all, our golden age. Meanwhile, countries around the world are bracing for another round of tariffs. As the president says, he'll introduce those that have not locked in new trade deals with Washington. Keep in mind, that's most countries. This follows Trump's announcement that he would push back trade deal deadlines for countries that have not yet reached an agreement with the U.S. that was previously set for the date of July 9th. So here to look at how global negotiations are playing out is Brett House, professor of professional practice in the Faculty of Business at Columbia University. Welcome to Your Morning.
Good to talk with you.
So looking back to the first Trump administration, we got a flavor of Trump as a tough negotiator, right? He said he was going to rip up NAFTA, and then he did. We renegotiated. In his second administration, though, we are seeing a more intense negotiator, more aggressive, I think I can use that word. What's behind the change in tactic?
Well, this time around, there are fewer constraints on President Trump. There are fewer people in the room, as Hamilton talked about, who are there to respect existing legal agreements, institutions, and precedents. And so he's moving in a way that is less bound by the traditions and the norms of trade negotiations and trade rules.
Trump began this version of negotiating, starting with his, well, before his presidential address when he was campaigning, but we heard it, where he spoke about re-entering the golden age of America and the use of tariffs to accomplish this. So how successful has he been to date with this method?
It hasn't been successful at all. We're not seeing any major reshoring or reinvention of manufacturing in the United States. And it's worth remembering that prior to the beginning of his administration, manufacturing output was at an all-time high in the U.S. Manufacturing investment had been on a 3-year run of record numbers. But what wasn't at a high was manufacturing employment. It was on a more than 60-year slide downward, but that reflects a downward slide that's happening everywhere in the world, and that's driven by technology, not trade.
If we're going to apply Trump's metric of success, this forcing companies to come back to the U.S., build there, and increasing cash flow by using tariffs, has it been a successful model?
No, it's not a model that you would apply anywhere else, nor do I think it's going to be successful in the U.S. We know from decades of economic modeling and analysis that we gain the most when we cooperate, not when we put impediments into the way of business and companies cooperating with each other.
You know, you talked about how this isn't traditionally how we do sort of diplomatic and trade negotiations, you know, in a governmental level. But when you're taking a look at, you know, private companies, for example, we know negotiations are all about control. And sometimes you have to give something up in order to get something back. If us as a country, if Canada can't reach a deal by July 21st, which was the deadline put in place at the G7 by both Trump and Carney, what can we expect if we don't have our deal in place?
Well, there has been a pattern of Trump chickening out, as traders on Wall Street have called it, the taco trade. Trump always chickens out. We've seen almost every deadline pushed back, moved, changed. But in this case, we may see a further intensification of the pressure being put on Canada because the U.S. tariffs affect our economy more deeply and more strongly than any other economy in the world. So the leverage Trump has is greater on Canada than it is on almost any other trading partner.
Well, you know, we were talking about pressure points, and one of our Ottawa reporters, Judy Trin, recently filed a story where she quotes Vincent Rigby, who's a former national security and intelligence advisor to the former Prime Minister Trudeau, saying that the U.S. is not going to be happy about losing some of their defense contracts to European competitors. This, of course, is one of the methods that Canada is using is to employ different suppliers from the EU as opposed to using the U.S., who supplies over 70% of our military contracts now. There may be political fallout in that respect. Could this be one of the pressure points that we see Canada falling to?
It well could be. And I think that's why our prime minister is discussing not just trade, but a security agreement as well with the United States, wrapping all of this together in a single discussion, which has some perils embodied in it, but it also ensures that we are not locked into a continual process of demands being made, concessions being offered, and then more demands being made with no conclusion to this discussion being reached.
Brett House, professor of professional practice at the Faculty of Business at Columbia University. Great to have you with us this morning. Thank you.
Terrific to speak with you.
If you like that video, make sure to subscribe to the Your Morning YouTube feed, where you can find all kinds of new content posted every weekday morning.